Hi, I'm Jonas from Eclipse, and today I would like to show you the new agent mode of Theia Coder, the fully open source and fully adaptable coding assistant, or now agent. So let's directly dive into the demonstration. All right, I'm in the AI-powered Theia IDE now. That's a fully open source coding environment that you can connect to any LLM. You can download and install it for free. Link is down below in the description. Let's talk about Theia Coder and its new agent mode. You might have heard of Theia Coder before. It exists since quite a while. And the previous way of working with it, and you can still, of course, do so, is what we now call the edit mode. And let me quickly demonstrate that to you. So I have an empty workspace, so I will do some wipe coding or Greenfield coding today. And let me just task Coder with a simple code generation task. So I ask Coder to generate a calculator application as a node-based web app using TypeScript, just like this. Now, what Coder will do, it first checks the workspace. It will see that the workspace is empty, and then it will very soon start to create some files. Now, in the previous mode, Coder was not able to write to the workspace, and we did that on purpose. Because we want to give you full control on what changes are actually applied to your code base, right? So these files down here are not yet in the workspace. If I want them to have them in the workspace, I can review them as a developer, just like this. I see a diff, and then as a developer, I can decide to apply them to my code base. Now, this mode is still very useful if you want to keep full control on what the agent is actually doing. But there are certain cases where we want to give the underlying LLM more freedom, particularly if the LLM should also run test cases, compile, fix linting, and so on. It's more beneficial in these cases if we actually allow the LLM to write to the workspace, because then it can compile the project, it can start the project, it can even test the running app in the browser, for example. So we basically make the agent much more autonomous. And that's exactly what Theia agent mode does. So let me quickly stop that here. You can see it starts to generate the full application. I could also apply all, but it will stop at a certain point because it cannot really use the tools like, for example, the compiler. All right, let me stop here. And let me open a new chat session. Now, to activate the agent mode, that's actually very simple. I go to the AI configuration view. I select Coder here. And here we can see the different prompts that are available for Coder. And currently I've selected the edit mode, and now I just switch this to the new agent mode. What I also will do is I will change the LLM that is used by Coder. Currently it's using 3.7. That would work. 3.7 is pretty good at agentic workflows already. But even better would be, for example, Sonnet 4, or as an alternative, I could use also the latest Gemini models, or for example, OpenAI GPT 4.1 is an excellent model. So you can really choose the one model that you prefer the most. All right, so now I'm already done. If I would now task Coder with a task, it would behave differently, and we will see that in a second. Another thing that I will turn on before I do that is I will go to the preferences. Let me make this a little bit larger so you can see something. And then I go to AI features and then notifications. Make sure when you use the agent mode that you turn notifications on. So this will actually notify you when the agent is done. The reason why I want to do this is if you use agent mode specifically with models like Sonnet 4, it will really do a very thorough job, and it might take a while, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because it will compile the project, run test cases, add readmes, and so on. So it really tries to do a very thorough job. And for that reason, it is interesting to get notified once the agent is actually done with it. All right, so let me close this. And now I will use the exact same prompt as I did before and task it to do so. And it will start similarly. It will look at the workspace, and then it will create some files. Let's quickly observe that, because in a second, you will be able to see the difference here. So workspace is empty. Now it makes a plan, and now it starts to create files. Now the difference is now when it created the first file, now we can see it's also added to the change set, but it's directly added to the underlying workspace. So this is already persistent. So we give the LLM much more control. Of course, the access is restricted to the current workspace, but it has now much more power because it can directly modify and write files. So you should work with Git to basically version your workspace before you allow the LLM to do that. Now, how does that basically work? I will not go too much into detail, but let's quickly look at how the difference is between edit mode and the new agent mode. And we can see actually the difference in the prompt. So in the Theia IDE, all prompts are open and you can even modify them. So let me look at the prompt here. This is the prompt for our agent mode. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And what we can see, so it's much longer than the edit prompt, and it contains these description like you're an autonomous agent. You must independently analyze, fix, validate, and so on. And it really describes an agentic workflow. And the other main difference here is it uses different tool functions to interact with the workspace. So you can use these tool functions in your own agents too if you build your own tools based on Theia AI. And they directly write to the workspace. The major feature that you still get is those changes will still be captured here in the change set. You can, for example, undo and still review them after the fact. All right. Now, with that, I will let Theia Coder work a little bit. I will pause the recording for now to not bore you and not make the video too long. But in a second, you will see the very interesting things that the new agent mode will actually do. All right, I'm back. It has just finished creating all the file contents. You can see in the workspace, the project is now quite extensive, including README, test configuration. It also generated tests and so on. Now, the interesting part begins now. Once it has created all the files, the agent decides that it now wants to build the project and test that everything works correctly. And we can see now it runs several tests here. And it even finds an issue. I will not go into detail. Now, this is live. I don't know exactly what issue it found. It's different every time I run this, of course. But we can see now it starts to iterate. And what that means is the agent is actually capable of running, for example, the compiler or a test. It will retrieve the result and then it will react to that, right? So it will fix its own code that it generated before until basically all tests complete, the compiler, the compilation completes, and so on. So we see here it identified some issues with the decimal handling. So it knows how to fix that and it immediately fixes that. And again, because it can directly apply the changes, it's fully autonomous. And this will continue until it's basically happy and tells us now the application is complete. So I will stop again to see the final end result then hopefully in a minute. All right, Theia Coder agent is done. It was so nice to start the application already for me, so we can see that here. So we can click that link and let me bring up a browser from my other screen. Voila, this is our application. So let's quickly do something, 7x7. Yeah, seems to work. So this app was fully generated only with the initial prompt that I've provided. And on the way, I was able to observe that it found some issues that the LLM actually did by itself, fixed some linting errors, it compiled several times. So it really fully autonomously created this application from scratch. Pretty cool. With this, I would like to close the demonstration for today. Two additional comments. You might want to know what is better, the edit mode, the one that we previously supported, or the new agent mode. That really depends on what you want to implement. For control changes on an existing code base that are not that big and you don't expect a lot of iterations and you want to review them, we still believe the edit mode is a very efficient tool. For Greenfield projects, if you want to try out something, or for features that you can describe very much in detail, the agent mode is very useful. And we observe developers really use both in practice. If you use the agent mode, it might take a while. So you might operate even on different workspaces to run several of these agents in parallel. Second comment, if you use the agent mode, it is very useful to write better and more detailed prompts. So the prompt that I used today was super simple, just for the sake to have a simple example. But the full power of this agent mode is actually unleashed if you describe the thing that you want to implement or that you want the agent to implement much more in detail. And the reason for that is this agent mode will actually run for quite a while, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and so on. It will consume a lot of tokens. So the more detail you add, the better the result will be at the end. And for this, I highly recommend you take a look at the concept of task context that I introduced in my previous video that I will link in the description and also in the overlay. With that, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. If you liked it, please consider to subscribe to our channel and leave a like at the video. If you want to use the Theia IDE that I demonstrated today in the new agent mode, there's a download link in the description below. And finally, if you want to build a similar tool, your own AI native coding environment or a domain specific tool, please get in contact with us. We provide services around this, and we have experts that can help you to apply AI in your own domain successfully. Thank you for watching.